Dan here with the paintballpost.com. Today I want to talk about what might just be one of the best deals on the used market, at least for 2026. Here in my hand is a MacDev Prime XTS. Now, they've come out with their GTX and the new Droid, I believe it was, and they just re-released the Cyborg as the Cyborg X. I don't have any of those because I have two of these, and I love these things. They are some of the best value for money on the used market possible. They are my number one pick on my best markers under $500 because you can kind of find these all day for about $400 to $500 on the used market. They're still for sale right now for $1,400 new. That's a bit nuts. So these were made to compete in that high-end price range. Now, I do have a full written review, but you're here for the video. So first things first, it does come with a pretty nice case. I've got here, nice big MacDev logo right across the front of it. Kind of got this carbon fiber kind of thing going on. It's a nice two-piece section. So what I mean by that is there's a divider to keep your barrels from scratching up all your stuff. And they've got a nice indent here to fit the marker. Manual, and it used to have the spare parts bag and stuff in there, but I've since moved that around. And then normally it has a 2 insert barrel. I have a barrel kit in here. It came with one of the ones I bought. Added value, right? Resale value might help if I decide to part with one of these. It comes with, I believe, a 691 and the 689. 681 and the 689. And that's probably all you'll ever need. The guy who sold me this brought a barrel kit for it, so I have a barrel kit now. Now, let's talk about the barrel for a second. This is one of the few gripes I have with this. Now, they've got that rubber, let's switch to my fancy overhead camera here. They've got the rubber back thing going on here to make it a bit easier to grip, which I don't mind. They have a nice barrel tip here, and the way that these are kind of pieced together, I kind of like this from just a purely aesthetic point of view. Where they, oh right, it's reverse threaded. I always forget about that. Because of where they put the split here, it does look a lot more like a traditional two-piece barrel. So if you're old school-ish like me, and you're used to your barrels having a 6-inch back or smaller, this looks the part. Now the inserts are nice and long. Like, if you're not familiar, it doesn't really make a giant difference in terms of consistency from what I've seen, but having a long barrel back does help with your efficiency numbers a bit because it lets you keep the bore a bit smaller before you get to the tip where a lot of that air escapes around the ball, a lot of that energy is lost. That's my understanding of it. But the one thing I don't like about this barrel, everything about this barrel I like, and I think I had this on my autococker, which is why I've got the 681 in there right now. I usually just throw a 688 on there and call it a day, but all depends on your paint and all that stuff. Don't barrel match. Go a little bit over or a little bit under. Ideally over, in my opinion, but depends how much you want air efficiency. Anyway, when it comes to these here, it is kind of nice that it can't come out, so when you unscrew your barrel, everything's going to be locked in place. And these do lock in pretty good, but as you can see, they're loaded from the front, like that, which means if you get a core sample and you have to take your tip off, now you might shoot your barrel tip out. They are locked pretty good in there, but I haven't tested how many shots. Maybe that'll be, if people want to see that, I will do that at the shooting range this summer. But overall, it's a good barrel. Reverse threading drives me a little batty, but I understand why they did it. And yeah, barrels are barrels. This one looks good. The porting on it, they went with this forward hole pattern where they're kind of drilled toward, either you can think about it drilled towards your opponent or towards you, depending on what direction you think the drill is coming from. But they claim, and it kind of holds up, this makes it quieter beside and behind it because it's channeling that air forward. I don't know how well that works officially. I haven't done like a dB meter, but these are a fairly loud marker for this style, for like a spool valve. So I think it does a pretty good job because I never notice any excessive noise or anything like that. But let's get to the marker itself, just for the sake of aesthetics. I'll show you how it looks with the barrel on it, and then we'll throw it under the camera there. I think this thing looks darn good. This is my gloss red. If I had my face, will it focus on it? Yeah, not bad. And yeah, it's kind of got that like rose gold almost kind of look to it. In person, like it's kind of that pinkish red, and I dig it. This one I have has the stock trigger. My blue one that I did the unboxing for, if you look back in my lives on this channel, has a deuce trigger on it, which I prefer, but the stock trigger does feel really good. Ergonomics on this thing is wonderful. If you're tall like me, right, I have so many markers on the wall behind me where you cannot fit your thumb behind the grip, let alone, like, I can fit an entire hand behind that foregrip. This thing is such a stable shooting platform. It is a joy to use. So if you are tall, but you like lighter markers as well without it getting too big, right? I used to shoot a Vanquish, and a lot of people thought that thing was a bit on the heavy side. Ergonomically, this thing is wonderful, and you can adjust the front foregrip here. So this is it at a slight angle. See if I can level it off. And you can adjust it so that it is straight up and down, although you can't see my hand because of the, right? So, yeah, so you can see that'd be straight up and down, I believe, give or take, right? So it is slightly pitched forward, and that's how I prefer it. This gives it, if you've ever shot like a Lux, how it has that slightly pitched forward front grip, this gets you there as well. And it has, again, that really stretched out feel. I love it. And yeah, let's go over the other features and stuff on this and then take it apart so you can see the inside. There we go. So, MacDev Prime XTS. We, starting in the corner that you can't quite see, we have our ASA, which also on off with the lever. And the lever is at that angle where you can have it you know, upright, and it's not going to be bumping into the on-off thing. I know some people care about that. And it's a great ASA. Our regulator is tucked right in there with a adjustment there. I have noticed one thing to keep in mind with these. This will only affect a few select people out there, but it's worth mentioning. This regulator is not, I believe the term would be balanced. Essentially, if you have this regulator set for a low pressure output tank, and then you plug it into a high pressure output, or you plug in a high pressure output tank, you will overpressure it and it will start to vent. So that has happened to me. I lent this to somebody, they threw their tank on it, and they're like, why is it venting like that? And it's because I've got two tanks with two different outputs on it. The vast majority of people, that won't matter. And you can run full output, like 800 PSI tanks on this, no problem. I think that was a problem with the original primes where they recommended using a lower pressure tank, which is the case with a lot of macroless markers. And I mean, I grew up in the era of Angels where like that was like a big deal. Like you had to have a low pressure output tank if you had an Angel, or it would screw with your mini reg and blah, blah, blah. But going up, we have our grips on the back here. They are super comfy. They went with the OLED screen on the side. When holding it, doesn't bother me at all. I'd rather it be on the back strip, but it's personal preference, and they didn't go massive with it. They're not doing like the giant big screen TV that Dye was doing for a little while. Everybody kind of calmed down and said, why do we need this? Everybody's setting it to NXL 10.5, 10.3, and just never touching it again. So I don't care. But it has a nice OLED screen, full color, all that. Gives you all the info you need, shot counters, all that stuff. I'm pretty sure, though I don't know the last time I actually checked my shot counter on this. And yeah, so this guy here, like I said, stock trigger is nice. It's, I think I can get a pretty consistent 17 on this last time I checked in terms of semi-auto walking it. And what more could I ask for? It doesn't bounce. It's, it's been a while since I've had it open. It's just a good feeling trigger and easy to swap out if you need or feel the need for a different one. And yeah, but I do like it does pitch forward just enough, kind of gets not quite into the scythe. These were my favorite triggers for the longest time. Still love them. The critical triggers, back when I played semi-auto only, and you can see the critical trigger scythes forward more, but we're not looking at just like a flat face trigger here either. But you can see over top how a similar vibe, though not quite. If you want a video on this, Mark, let me know. I have a love-hate relationship with it. It was my go-to for a long while. I do love it in a lot of ways, but especially for semi-auto. But I digress. Carrying on. Now, trigger frame. The 2 screws to take the trigger frame out. It's also 2 screws to change your battery. Do I care? No. This thing's easy on batteries. Doesn't have, like, this battery's been in here since last season, so it's sat here over my winter here, and it's still saying full battery. It's not doing the Dye eyes always on, draining your battery all the time kind of thing. So not a big deal to need to take the grip off to change the batteries, though I can understand why in this higher end price range you would want that feature. And they do make multiple other markers now that have rechargeable batteries in the grips. I'm not sold on those yet. I started off with Spiders and Angels, where if you forgot to charge your gun before you head out for the weekend, it just made for a bad weekend. So I don't mind, though, the rechargeables now. Rechargeable batteries are way better than they were when I was a kid. So, but these run off of a standard 9-volt, and yeah, 2 screws for that. 2 screws to take off the trigger frame. Toolless trigger frames, I think that was a little gimmicky. Like, if you're taking off your trigger frame, let's just let us... It's better to have some screws. I'm sorry. Internally here, and I'm not going to take the trigger frame off, but it actually is very, very well wired and very, very well thought out inside. The eye wires are incredibly short. We've got, now this is a toolless thing I really like, and you can see the front of the solenoid here, and then that's your eyes there. I believe it's been a while since I've opened it. I believe that is where the eyes, let me just, yeah, that is where the eyes plug in. So the eyes just go voop, voop. Incredibly short eye wires, nearly impossible to pinch anything. I love it. And then it is wireless to take the frame off, so you don't have to worry about breaking any pins or anything like that off, which I've almost done on things like the axe, where even though technically it's wireless, there's some like long pins you have to make sure you have lined up and stuff. This is much easier, and it's incredibly, like, a lot of thought went into fitting that in. And because of how they arranged it, even though this grip frame houses your board, your battery, and your regulator, and on top of that, your solenoid, this is a very short, thin body. It's very, very modern tube. Now, these eyes are wonderful. There is a plastic piece around them that seals the breech. So if you need to clean your breech out, you can just pour water down it and it's fine. They did go for the rubber detents. I was not sold on these, and now I am. Just not these ones in particular. I'm just overall thought, like, why would we go back to rubber detents? And they seem to, a lot of these more just give us rubber nub detents seem to handle rollback problems and stuff a bit better, is my current experience. Like I have an Axe 2.0 that uses similar now. Planet Eclipse uses similar. I do wish. I know a lot of people get annoyed when you hear about people copying each other's homework, as they like to say. If we're going to use rubber detents, can we all just use the same ones? Can we just accept that and just have everybody use like the Planet Eclipse size ones, right? We're all using autococker threading. Can we just make it that every marker that uses rubber nub and detents uses the same form factor? I don't get it. Now, thankfully, the Axe has moved to that. When I do my Axe 2.0 review, I will get into that a little bit because they've switched to the rubber nub ones and Eclipse ones fit. And I don't know if there's any patents or any reason not to. But I have some spare detents, and MacDev is using these in a bunch of their other markers, so I'm not worried about finding them later. But it would be nice to have just some standardization there. But as you can see, they have magnetic eye covers. Very easy to take off. You can see I got a little bit of paint inside of it at some point from behind the detent there, unless that's just some extra oil from when oil from my grease that's on here. Just sweating a little bit into here. I don't know, but I haven't cleaned this thing since last season. Let's click those into place. Yeah, clicks in just like that. And this is very smooth. Now, the only real reason, like, you can't really feel that seam unless you hunt for it. If these were the same color, it would be a lot less distinguishable. But I kind of like they went with the matte on a couple of the parts and then the gloss, and I like it. I'm a big black and red fan. As mentioned before, when I've talked about the ergonomics, you've got your foregrip here. There is a screw on the bottom of it to take the thing off and adjust it. It was a pain in the butt actually to take mine off because of where the screw internally is. Well, I think it would have been fine if I had the stock Allen key for that size. My Allen key set for this one was missing one that was just replaced with a random one that had a shorter shaft on it, so I couldn't quite get to it and had to make it work. But got the thing off, got it to where I want it, and yeah. Up top, clamping feed neck. It's a great feed neck. I don't know what else to say. Modern feed necks are all pretty much good, no matter what anybody tells you. It's got the thumb wheel on the side. I know that's a whole thing of Dangerous Powers patents sticking around. Now, let's have a look inside, shall we? Toolless bolt removal, nice and easy, and there she is. I think I greased this one up the other day, unless that was my other one. We've got our back cap here. Now, I do have in this one... Oh, I don't want to take that part off. I have the only upgrade I would ever recommend for a paintball gun anymore. This is the Immortal Air bullet. It reduces the chamber back here, so you have to up your pressure a little bit, but it did a nice little efficiency boost. So your mileage may vary, but if you get one of these on the used market, it probably already has that, so you don't have to worry too much. Bolt engines, super easy to take apart. We've got the little valve snout here. Bolt and that there. That is it. There is, unfortunately, I wish there was ways around it. 2 O-rings inside of there, but that's not the end of the world. And they last a really long time, so you don't have to worry too much about them. And yeah, we got our bolts, so very small reciprocating mass. Again, a bolt tip, a nice one too. It's very reminiscent of what Planet Eclipse has been doing on theirs recently. but not standardized part, which is a little bit annoying. I wish that everybody just would be like, hey, you know what? Let's just all use the same bolt tips too. But a man can dream, but I just doubt that. A lot of these companies don't get along right now. Oh, maybe I didn't take this one apart because that's got some dirt on it. But that's kind of it. Now, these are what would often be referred to as like a dump valve. So back here in this section, that houses a bunch of air, and then because this is slotted, it has a bit of air from that. And then when this bolt is back, that pressure is all sitting behind it. And this is something that's interesting on this. So this is like a dump valve, reminds me a lot of a early Geo, right? If you ever look at ZDSPB, they've got some videos and animations and stuff showing the Geo firing. This fires almost identically. This moves forward. Once it clears that O-ring, it vents all the gas forward, and then this comes back, right? So fires, back. But this leads to some interesting problems, because if you don't have a way to cut off the air source to back here, it will just send air out the front. Now, Dangerous Power just ignored that, and that's how they got away with having such a tiny air chamber. Do I have that here? So Dangerous Power went this route. You'll see that's a very similar looking bolt system where it moves forward and dumps the chamber. The difference here, and a pretty big difference in my opinion, is, let me readjust my microphone. The big difference here is when this is forward, there's nothing stopping the air source, right? This is fed from back here. So as this is forward, there's just, regulated air, but nonetheless, like, there's just no dump chamber back here. Yeah, that was an interesting choice. Now, the way the Geo got around that was the Geo used a solenoid that would actually direct the air to that part of the chamber. Now, on the XTS here and on the Prime and like this, I think they use the similar system on some of the other MacDev markers. The air is fed through here. So when this is at rest, and this is here, air is fed through these holes. Right, like that. And then as soon as this moves past those holes, there's an O-ring that now blocks this. That's why there's two O-rings in there, right? You can see that O-ring there. That is behind these holes here. So as soon as these slots move past these holes here, it cuts off the air. And it's just a very elegant way of doing that. Now, because this is a dump valve design like that, and we don't have some of the flow restrictor stuff you see on things like the, what's it called? The solenoid flow restriction stuff they do on, why is there, yeah, I must not, I guess there's oil on there from, not oil, but it's just some lube from there's grease there. On the Geo, they can do a flow restrictor to control how fast it vents the air sear, and that can slow the bolt movement down. This doesn't have that. So as soon as you pull the trigger, and this fires and it vents the whole thing very, very quickly, and that's fine. The paintball can handle that. The player, on the other hand, will notice this is a very abrupt shot. I love it because it feels very Poppet-esque. And again, my marker of choice for a long while, even though I do have some, really nice spools behind me, like just out of, is it out of frame? No, it should be in frame. I've got a directly behind my head, I've got my PM8. Love that marker, but my mark was my go-to for a long while. I've got a Lasoya Pro Master back there. I like me some poppet valves, and this gives you that kind of feel. So if you are after that super smooth, super easy shot, airy, this isn't it. And that's what some people are expecting. These things are actually poppier than some of their predecessors. So if you're after a super smooth shot, I believe they still make the GT2, which that's going to be your best bet there if you want to go MacDev for that. But great bolt system, not for everybody, but I love it. And very, very easy to service, like I was showing there. You don't even have to take this back piece off 9 times out of 10. If you need to service this, like if you just need to relube it, like I should be relubing this thing for the next season, take this off, wha-bam. Make sure some grease ends up on those in there. Grease this guy here, and grease that guy there. Don't bother putting oil on that. It doesn't, I keep saying oil. I don't know why. Don't bother putting grease on there. It doesn't need it. And yeah, it just works. They call it the Infinity Engine, and I kind of believe them on that. I purposefully, on my other one of these, because this one I didn't put as much paint through, so I don't think I greased this at all last season. Right, I greased it at the beginning of the season and then just used it, and it was kind of my loner slash backup gun, and I got a few cases of paint through it. No issues. And then my main one, just because I prefer the ergonomics of it, because it has, like I said, a different trigger on it. That just ended up being my preference. And then I've got it dialed in for a tank that has a slightly longer reg that I might do a video on that I keep forgetting to talk about. I just didn't use this one very much. But the other one, I didn't grease the entire season either. I probably put about, I don't know, like 15 cases or something through it without any issues and no maintenance, and just throwing it in the bag. I cleaned the barrel out every now and then if I got barrel breaks, and that was kind of about it. But yeah, there was like some dirt and grime in there. It was still shooting just fine. And now it's ready for the next season. These are bulletproof. There's just so little that can go wrong here. You can, if you start getting a lot of inefficiency kind of problems, from what I'm told, that internal O-ring is usually your best bet to replace, because you won't really notice any leaks from that O-ring. You will just have inefficiency, because then it's letting air out the front when it's not supposed to, because when the bolt's forward, it's supposed to lock that off. But yeah, just a great little system. Yeah, like no paint handling issues. I think they really did a good job with this. I wish that they stuck with it, right? If they just took the well, I kind of know why they didn't. One is the market kind of spoke, and everybody just wanted a Gamma Core knockoff, so they kind of just made one. The other is this sold horribly. Now, the reason it sold horribly has nothing to do with actually how good it is. It's because they kind of just hoard the thing out to a bunch of their teams at really, really discounted prices, and then those teams sold them on the used market at heavily discounted prices. And yeah, it left a lot of retailers kind of holding the bag, which sucks. And I am not a fan of that. And from what I hear, they have righted that ship quite well. I've met personally like the MacDev dealer for Canada and talked to him a bit about MacDev, and he speaks pretty highly of dealing with them. They've really stepped it up in terms of business to business side of things, which is good, because I mean, you can just sell everything direct, but that's not what they were trying to do, especially given that these guys are from Australia. I don't believe this is made in Australia, but it's designed there, kind of thing. And yeah, he speaks highly of them, and it sounds like they've kind of righted that. So, but their loss is our gain. Like I said, these can be had for $400 on the used market, which is nuts, right? I believe I paid $5 with shipping and a full barrel kit for this one, and the equivalent of about $450, $400 or so for my one in blue with the this one I got for about $450 American from WC Marker, give or take. It's Canadian dollars. Then the other one I ordered in from the States from a guy, and that one came with the barrel kit. It's just the barrel kit ended up in this one's box. I love these. That's why I have two. I sold some of my more vintagey pieces that I was never going to use again, and bought a second one because I liked it that much. And now I have two, and they're sticking with me. I just don't really need anything else. I might get some stuff for fun, right? There's one for sale locally. I might get a new one. I don't know. But yeah, these, they feel great in the hands. They shoot amazing. Yeah, I say they shoot amazing. Your mileage may vary. If you want a super smooth spool, this is not for you. If you want an incredibly reliable, easy to service, rock solid, and gives you a little bit of feedback kind of marker, this is your one here. It almost feels like a smooth poppet because of how abrupt the shot is. And if you're not expecting that, for some it can feel kicky, but there's so little force moving back and forth. It's just the fact that it is just that it's done, right? And I can't snap my fingers, especially when they're covered in grease. Yeah, these things, they just go. They just work. They are super easy to maintenance. Their design here under the hood is wonderful, right? Like the bolt system is great. They like all of the easy modern features that I could want as somebody who, when I left, like I said, I was using a Vanquish 2.0, though basically a GT because I put in the upgraded engine. And it was good, but it was a bit heavy. It was one of the first to have no wires between the trigger frame, but it was on this weird hinge thing to make sure that you didn't screw the pins up and stuff. But like before that, I was shooting a PM8, and macro line is fine and all, but I would always run into weird leaks and stuff on there, even though the bolt on mine always worked. Toolless bolt removal, OLED board just out of the box, a really nice on-off ASA that's just no nonsense. It just works. Very, very comfortable in the hands. You can clean the breech just by pouring water down the darn thing, right? Everything about this thing is spot on. It's a high-end marker that is selling used for, like, I got one of these for less than a used ETHA 3 in my local market. That's kind of nuts, right? Like I got this on sale, like I said, from WC Marker. I think they have one that's around like $650, $700, somewhere in that range, right? Excuse me, right now Canadian. And I've seen them. I got it on like a 10% off or something like that around like a Boxing Day or Christmas special last year, and it was cheaper than getting an ETHA 3. Now, ETHA 3s are great, but oh man, right? I got two of these for the price of one, like 180R. And these are made to compete with stuff like the CS3. At least they were. Now they're making their GTX to kind of fight along in that space. But yeah, if you're after an inexpensive, good marker that is 100% modern and has all of the features of a high-end paintball gun. You just can't go wrong with a Prime XTS. They use all standard O-rings except for one. It's not like a proprietary one, but it's a metric. I think it's like I can't remember, like a 14 something. I can't remember. But I bought a bag of them for like $5 and have 100 of them to reuse whenever I need. This thing is wonderful. Highly recommend it. That's kind of it. And yeah. So, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.